A lot of these schools in India that we go to, they're proud of the fact that they have HBS case studies, right? They take pride in that fact. And we got inspired with one of the HBS classroom that was being shot, and it's on YouTube, and a lot of people have seen that. And we kind of started our own property called Take a Seat in a Classroom, where we started showing how case study discussions happen in India, right? What exactly happens in these case study discussions? So, does that make you just an audience, or you take part in this? What do you solve, and how do you learn from this?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a very unique system of education. I think it's great. I think at the end of, you do 500 cases approximately through your 2 years at HBS. At the end of it, I think the learning that they're trying to make you go home with is, with little information, how informed decision you can make, and can you say something sensible in a room full of people that are much smarter than you. That's literally like, okay, confidence in yourself, trying to pick up on pieces of context, but looping in your existing knowledge to try and make sense of, let's say that it's even 2 lines that you read about something, like can you still make an informed opinion when you're in a boardroom or a meeting room, and still say something that's worthwhile and valuable. So I mean, again, different topics or different discourses are taught differently, but in HBS it's all a case study method. So I think, for example, I would critique or I would give feedback that like things like accounting is probably not best done through a case method. Like, you want it a little bit more top down to say like, okay, this is how you do accounting. I never done accounting before, but like, but the beauty is that even in the accounting classroom, you have like 30% of the students who have some like really deep insight into accounting and how they did accounting in their own businesses. So their perspectives really help, for example. But it's driven by the professor. So what happens is everybody gets the case. You're supposed to read the case. It's 20 pages, 30 pages, depending on what topic it is. So everybody reads that case. The professor does a really good job at contextualizing the case by sourcing opinion. So the professors barely speak. It's almost like, hey, you read the case. Like, what did you learn, or what did you read? So everybody will first lay out the context. Then there's a specific prompt or a problem that they pre-send you, which is going to be the core topic of the discussion. It could be a decision. More often than not, it's a decision. So you put your mind in the head of an entrepreneur or a manager or a leader or whatever, and you have a node, right? Should I go option A? Should I go option B? Context is similar for both. They'll give you some sort of insight or math that, okay, like let me do some modeling, whether it should be A or B, and so on and so forth. So I think that's the core crux of it. So it forces you to put yourself in the mind of, what would you do? And it could be from various perspectives, right? It could be financial, it could be economic, it could be ethics, it could be, accountability. It could be so many things that like you think, oh, wait, if I was in the mind of that entrepreneur that I read about, like what would I have taken? And at that time I said something, so A, I want to be consistent with it. I don't want to be a hypocritical, or somebody else told me something that made me think, oh, this was not the way that I should have been thinking about it, and then your opinion therefore changes. What HBS does really well is, okay, so they first segment you in sections, but then you have like all these random trips, right? So for example, you have this thing called field, which is groups of 6 or 7 that go to a city, in the US. At the time for us, it was in the US because of COVID and so on and so forth, but internationally otherwise. So you go to Argentina, Peru, this, that, and then you go and work with a business in Peru, you go and work with a business in Argentina and Brazil. But what they do really well is they slice and dice and shuffle you up very well, right? So over the course of the 2 years, even though your section's only 90 people, all of these like random opportunities, and I'd say there's like 10, 15, 20 where they like make you do small group things and this and that, like it gets you in close contact with, I'd say, at least 300 or 400 of that class of 1,000. From the summer onwards is where I became a lot more in the entrepreneurship startup sort of ecosystem within Harvard, and I can speak to that as well, because that's when then I started activating things outside of the classroom. And honestly, I stopped indexing on the classroom at all, because I was like, okay, this is definitely more important, because this is now where I want to be. And we just applied for one, and on a business plan, right? Like on a written business plan, like we had actually no on-ground traction or no like partnerships or nothing, just ideas. But wrote it down, and somehow one of these early stage competition guys gave us like $25,000 or something like that, and we were like, okay. We had to set up an entity to get that check, because we didn't even have this and we didn't think that we were going to win or whatever. But anyway, that was the first step on, okay, somebody believed in this idea.